Hi everyone, Dave here, East Rosebud Fly and Tackle in Billings, Montana. Good morning. It's June, which means it's damsel fly season. So I developed a pattern I'm going to call the Goggle Eye Damsel Fly. This is a light damsel meant to be fished right underneath the surface. The bead chain eyes and a little bit of epoxy on the wing case give it just a little bit of weight, so when you quit retrieving, it slowly dives. When you start retrieving, it picks back up. And I'm using the Daiichi swimming larva hook, and that's going to help with the motion on this particular fly. Let's see, thread wise, I'm just going to be using some uni 6/0 olive, one little strip of 0.25 lead weight. That's just to help make sure that this damsel floats in the right direction. And then for the tail and the hackle, I'm going to be using this whiting soft hackle with Chickabou. It's actually a tremendous value. There's a ton of feathers on this. You can buy the Chickabou separately, but then you don't get all the soft hackle in here. So this fly is dedicated to Dr. Whiting and his products and his Chickabou with soft hackle. The body is just Midge Diamond Braid, just a wrap on that. And then for the thorax, I'm using a strip of buckskin. This is actually a goat leather, thin, very fine. Chuck Formiski developed this. And this is a pearlized olive, but I found out it really doesn't make a lot of difference. I'm going to tie this in so that I actually bring the dull side up. And when I hit it with the Solar Res Thick, that really darkens that leather and gives me a darker wing case. So we'll start with the uni thread in olive. Get a bit of a thread base here. We want to make sure when we tie in these fluorescent bead chain eyes that we leave enough room to bring this buckskin thorax or the wing case over the top and tie it behind the eye. So that'll work. Cross wraps. Then the mandatory zap-a-gap here on the bead chain. Just a little bit. Go ahead and wrap a thread base back in preparation for the tails. Right about over the barb. So what I'm going to do is just pick a pair of the Chickabou portion of this pelt. Try to get them right next to each other so they're about the same size.
Come to ruin your day. How come? You couldn't ruin my day. I have a fish hanging in here. Yeah.
And then I'm going to oppose the hackles so that they're facing away from each other, like so. That also gives you a little bit extra movement when you're fishing this fly. About hook length is fine. And I tie this in just like I were tying in hackle point wings. Simply find your separation point, split it, bring your pinch wrap around, and pull down. And that will collapse those feathers on top of the hook shank and give you that split tail. Make sure that's lined up. A couple more wraps. And we'll take off the rest of that hackle. Alright, for the weight I'm going to use just a little bit of 0.025 lead wire. Two purposes. One, it unbalances the fly so that when you fish it, it flips and the bottom is down. Secondly, it helps me prepare this body before I use my overwrap to get everything nice and smooth. I'm just going to set that here, right behind the eyes. Wrap firmly back to where I stopped with the hackle. And now our underbody is nice and smooth.
Something changed, I'll bring it back.
And this is just peacock midge braid. You could use a number of things, but remember the damsel flies are very, very narrow, very thin. So I wanted to keep with a thin material like this. Plus it gives it just a little bit of sparkle. Remember, your damsel flies emerge from the lake and swim to shore. So you should be positioning yourself on the bank and pulling the fly in towards the bank. And it's not a constant retrieve, it's a slow strip, then a pause, and then a slow strip. You want to keep this fly just underneath the surface. Tie that off. Then my strip of buckskin. So you can tie this in either way. I just find that if I tie it in where I bring the raw edge, the back edge up, and apply a Solares, I get a darker wing case. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to kind of cut some tips here into this. Again, right behind the eyes. Now I have the shiny side of this buckskin facing up. About a third of the body for the wing case, and now I'm going to come to the Chickabou soft hackle pelt and pick out some soft hackle. First thing I need to do is to fold this hackle so that it lays well. I did a previous video on this. It's simply a matter of grabbing the tip and the base, applying some pressure, pinching with your fingers and rolling them down. Pinch and down. I have the shiny side facing up, or you can fold the hackle either direction. Start from the tip and work your way back, like so. I have my division point here, which is where I'll tie in. And leave just a little bit of a gap before the hackle starts. That allows me to orient the hackle before I wrap it.
All right, buddy, thank you. You're welcome, sir.
Okay. You see that first half wrap actually isn't hackle. That allows me to get that quill oriented correctly. And as I wrap, sweep these hackles back, and they just lay beautifully. All the way up to where the thread is hanging, and tie off. Now we just kind of roll this hackle down a little bit. Bring our buckskin, I'm going to bring my thread forward. Stretch this a little bit, make sure you got it centered in between the eyes. I make my first wrap a little soft. I try to minimize how much I pucker that leather. 3 tight wraps. So as you see here, I have enough room to cut off and finish, and for that I prefer just to use a blade of some sort. It's easier to cut it cleanly. Try not to cut my thread. Okay. Finish that off with a nice thread head and a whip finish. So as you can see, this is a fairly simple fly. I like to keep my flies simple. Then I'm just going to use some Solarez thick UV resin and apply it to this wing case, and it really darkens this leather up. Make sure you touch the abdomen back here where your midge braid is. This will help to keep this together, and I bring it right down to the thread wraps behind the eye. You can use the nozzle to push it around. I'm not really trying to build height here. I just want a little bit of shine, like that. Solarez recommends a 2-part cure, particularly when you have thick area like this. One is just a flash cure. They recommend you hit just a second. You can see those fluorescent bead chain eyes light up. This is allowed the heat to dissipate. If you have a thick layer of this and you just hit it with the light and keep it on, what happens is underneath this material starts to warp and take on some funny shapes. So they recommend a flash cure, allow 15 seconds for the heat to dissipate, and then cure it again. Now this is their big light, which really puts out the watts. There you have it. Goggle-eyed damsel. Give it a try. It's not a hard fly to tie. It's a great fly to fish. Thanks for joining in, and we'll see you next time.